don't never point the finger at others when it's your fault.
Oh, wow.
Always look yourself in the mirror and be able to own any mistake that you make. Obviously there's, other dynamics that can take place and that you can't control, but the things that you can control, you have to be able to own the mistake if it doesn't go the way that you hope for.
Hi, I'm Erik Weir, and welcome to another episode of Stuttering Your Way to Success. Today I have a very special guest, CJ Spiller. CJ.
How you doing, Eric? It's an honor to be on here with you.
So good to have you on. And you did me a favor. I've got a book I wrote. He wrote a forward for me on it.
Yeah.
He was in there, and I tell you what, watching your career and everything you've been up to, you've been a success. And I was just talking before we came on, and you gave me an answer I didn't expect at all. I was like, wow, it's fantastic. So, you've been a success at college football, high school football, in the pros, and now you're coaching. And I'm like, well, you're in the Hall of Fame here, Hall of Fame there. Wow, which one of these amazing things you're most proud of? And it wasn't that at all.
Not
so,
at all.
What are you most proud of?
My proudest moment is graduating from college in 2009. In December, just because I was the first one in my family to do that. And it's just one of those things that I promised my late grandmother, who's gone on to be with the Lord when she passed away. She always talked about the importance of academics.
Right.
And I'll never forget my 6th grade year, I was ineligible to play, not college, but play middle school football.
Come on.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was ineligible by 1 point. And it just hurt me to my core. And just like any young kid, every time that question came up, why you not out there playing, you always try to come up with some type of excuse.
Right.
And then I just came to the realization that, there's no need for me to keep trying to hide behind this curtain. I'm going to just, own it and be better and make sure that I never have this feeling ever again in my life. And from that point on, I put a huge emphasis on my academics over my athletic ability.
Really? So how does owning it change your life? That's a really not very popular topic. It's your fault, or you did this. How does owning it change your life?
I think it just goes back to the way that I was raised through my grandparents. They always told me that, don't never point the finger at others when it's your fault.
Oh, wow.
Always look yourself in the mirror and be able to own any mistake that you make. Obviously there's, other dynamics that can take place and that you can't control, but the things that you can control, you have to be able to own the mistake if it doesn't go the way that you hope for. And
Wow.
and that was the case in 6th grade. I was, thinking that my athletic ability would please these teachers. And I had a teacher say, no, I'm not going to allow, just because you're just this star guy at this middle school at the time, just to ease through my school. You're going to have to earn it, and you're going to have
Wow.
to put in the work. And
Tough
that
love.
really,
Yeah.
that really set the foundation
Yeah.
for my academics, honestly. And I'm very pleased that she didn't just let me go through, because,
Right.
who knows what course I would have took.
Wow, that's fantastic. So now I always ask people, going back to your younger self, okay, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, man. 20-year-old, I guess I'd be in college at the moment. And I would probably tell myself, because I was very different than a lot of my peers, because I had my daughter coming into college. So my primary focus wasn't just about me at the moment. Even at a young age, I wrote down all my goals that I wanted to accomplish.
Okay.
And my mom still has that. To this day, she has that letter that I wrote as a younger CJ Spiller. And at the very bottom, just like any young kid, I had NFL and I circled it. And so if I was to go back and tell the 20-year-old version, I would just say enjoy it more than probably what I did, because I would just really focus on trying to make it to that destination that I wrote down on that piece of paper at a young age. And yeah, I enjoyed college, but I probably could have enjoyed it more and probably made better friendships with guys outside of football. And that's my message to my guys in my room today, is make friendships outside of football, because you're with your buddies 97 to 98% of the time. But it's those friendships that the guy that you're in the English class with, that's going to be a lifetime, that you never know that you can strike a business deal with. But if you don't put yourself out there and try to make that relationship with that guy, you'll never have the opportunity. So that's always been my encouragement to my guys. That's one of the things that I wish I would have done better. when I was in college. So that would be one of the things that I tell my younger 20-year-old version, man, is truly enjoy college. Yeah, you have a responsibility because you have a daughter, but truly enjoy the whole aspect of being a college student.
Wow. So you set goals. I mean, that's fantastic. Some people do, some people don't.
Yeah.
But to write that down as a kid, NFL, and circle it. So do you have a process that you go through for setting goals now, or do you read them very often, or do you think about them? Tell me how that works for you.
Yeah, well, I just kind of just see where I'm at in life at that moment, and I kind of set short-term and long-term goals, and I set goals that's attainable. I don't go out and set these goals that just out of the reach. I want something.
NFL percentage wise. Listen, I set attainable goals. It's like 1/1000%.
Yeah, but I just knew in my heart like that was just obviously I was very blessed with just a gift that the Lord gave me, and I really wanted to really craft that gift and be able to honor Him with it. And so to me, yeah, like you say, making it to the NFL is 1 out of 100,000. But in my heart of heart, I just knew that if I really worked hard and dedicated and sacrificed, that I would position myself to hopefully one day be in that position.
Right.
And it came true. But I just kind of see where I'm at in life, and then a lot has to do with professional goals. A lot has to do with family goals.
Right.
And I just, trying to just go from there. And, like I said, I make short term and make long term. But it's no, I don't want to say it's no magic wand to it. I think each person have to really evaluate where they're at in life, and kind of you just, and then where you want to be at in life as well.
Right.
And then you kind of just go from there, and then you just you write it. To me, I'm a visual learner, so I have to write this stuff down. I don't want to just say it in the open air, and then 3 months from now you be like, man, what that goal? That goal I set 3 months ago. So I put it in. I have a notebook and I write it down, and I always look at it, from week to week, and kind of see, how I'm doing to get into that goal.
That's fantastic. So now you're running back coach.
Yeah.
At Clemson.
At Clemson.
No less, right?
I know.
Where you played, right?
Where I played, alma mater.
Yeah.
Truly,
Where you graduated from.
Yeah, graduated from.
Yeah. So what is that like?
It's an honor. Truly, to me, I'm going into my 4th year overall, but my 3rd year as a running back coach. And to be honest with you, Eric, it still hasn't sunk in that I'm the running back coach at Clemson, my alma mater, place that I played at, a place that's very dear in my heart, a place that's special to me. But I take tremendous pride into it. I take, like I said, it's a blessing. And every time I go out and I interact with a young man or his family, I want to make sure that I'm representing my university at the utmost respect. Because even when, hopefully after a very long coaching career, when I'm done, I'm still going to want my university to be very special and very unique than other places.
And your other coaches, you have some famous coaches you're with there. So what's it like with Dabo and the whole team?
Yeah, we have a great culture there, and I think Coach Sweeney does a great job of setting the tone of that. Everybody knows what the standard is at Clemson, and you pretty much just fall in line with that. And he's very family oriented, and he lets that be known. Obviously, everybody knows about his faith, and he lets that. He's not ashamed of that. And so where you stand with Coach. There's no second guessing, like, okay, where do I stand? Like, you know exactly where you stand.
He let you know, huh?
And he let you know in a very respectful manner, very competitive, but does a great job with his players, making sure that, I was just telling Jerry earlier that the way that he sets the program up is he's setting it up for that 30-year-old version of that guy, of that young man. Because, he always say, either going to come hug my neck when we see each other, or you going to turn and run away. And hopefully it's going to be the one where you come and hug my neck, because the things that, the way that we set it up is for you to go off and be successful in life. Because the reality is everybody's not going to make the NFL. That's the reality.
Right.
But we have other departments in our program that can help you go off and be successful, starting with Paul Journey, which is the game changer for our guys. And these guys having a chance to do micro-term internships. They getting a chance to go and sit down with, high executive. They go do a business week. They go to New York. They were just in L.A. this past spring. They go and sit down with Maverick Carter, who's, obviously with LeBron. You
Right.
know, so not the average guy can go and just have a meeting with that guy. You know,
Right.
so these guys try to do a great job of taking advantage of that.
That's fantastic. So now you're traveling some, you're recruiting. What is that like? It's a lot of travel, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the month of May is really our big traveling for recruiting. And to me, I love it because I get an opportunity to go out and meet coaches and establish relationships and also get a chance to get eyes on these younger guys that have dreams of going off and being in college. And also you get you a chance to really get to know their story. You know, and some of it's very similar, some of it's not. So it's a very unique situation because everybody's different. And so I really take pride into really getting to know the person and not just the player, because it's easy for you to sit there behind a desk and watch the film and say, oh yeah, this is a great player. But what makes that person a great player? Well, like,
Right.
what's his backbone? What's his foundation? So that's the part that I truly enjoy, getting to really know that young man and his family.
If they ask you, what are 2 or 3 reasons why I should choose Clemson? I mean, what would you tell them?
Well, number one is different, and I would say that it's a special place with special people, and that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish at Clemson if you decide to go somewhere else. You know, everybody think Clemson, you can't accomplish all these great things because of, I guess, the demographic area, because it's a small college town. But when you really come on campus, you really realize, oh, wow, I can really accomplish a lot. I mean, we got a $60 million business building. I mean, our engineering is one of the tops in the country, if not the tops. So, I mean, whatever you want to accomplish in life, you have it right there. And then the friendships that you're going to make with people from all across the world, you know, people that you're going to be able to engage with on a daily basis. That's something that's special.
Fantastic. If you're somebody, I'm 18 years old now, I'm sitting at home, I'm thinking about what to do. Would you have advice for even if athletics or not athletics? I mean, what would you tell somebody?
Well, I would tell them, first I would ask, like, what are you passionate about?
Right.
You know, because first you have to find out what you're passionate about to really, you know, give them great advice.
Right.
You know, especially if it's, you know, non-athletic. And then whatever you're passionate about it, you make sure that you're putting all your resources into that and making sure that you're honing in that craft to go out and be special. And then I would tell people networking. I mean, that's huge, you know, and go out and, you know, meet people. To me, that took a while, but just because I'm a very reserved person and very quiet and try to stay to myself. But it took me some years to really open up and really get out into networking, meeting, you know, different people, people that, you know, that has these businesses that you hopefully can, you know, hopefully can share with and try to get some ideas and ask them what made them successful. And then you kind of take that and, you know, use that to your advantage.
Sure.
So that would kind of be my thing, is kind of ask them, you know, what are they passionate about? And then whatever that is, make sure that you're honing in on that and doing everything you can to make sure that it's great.
Sure. So when you were growing up, or even now, did you have any role models you learned a lot from?
Well, I grew up in a very small town, right outside of. Grew up in a town called Union County, which is right outside Gainesville. I mean, it's probably one of the smallest towns in the entire state of Florida. You know, really the big occupation for my hometown is either working at the prison, and that was not on my list at all. I was not doing that. Or, you know, some people, you know, from a woman's perspective, is, you know, become a nurse or something.
Right.
You know, so my role models really was my grandfather. You know, I had, you know, athletes that, you know, I looked at. You know, Ward Dunn was my guy. You know, he was the reason I wore 28. And then it wasn't just because of what he done off the field. I was very intrigued with what he does off the field. Even to this day, his charity work that he does with giving single parent moms homes. You know, to me that was very intriguing to me. And to me, I was like, that's a role model. That's who I want to look up to. But I would probably say my grandfather. I mean, he taught me everything that I know, just from hard work. You know, how to provide, you know, for your family, how to treat your wife, you know, how to really become a man, you know. And so he was really my top role model.
What motivates you today?
What motivates me today? I would say my two young kids,
Okay.
Shania and Cade. And I would say my wife, Daisha. Those three, outside of, you know, my normal family.
Right.
But I would say those three are my motivation, because I know every day that I wake up and I walk out that door, that I'm responsible for a lot of lives that's connected in my inner circle, especially those three, so
Right.
my decision making can't be selfish
Right.
because whatever decision I make is going to affect those three that's in my household.
Right.
So that's always my motivation is, and then I always want my daughter who's 17 now, my baby boy who just turned 1, I just want them to be proud of pops.
Right.
Whenever they, go on
Right.
Google or
Right.
whatever, or if they have a conversation with somebody, they'll be able to have a smile on their face walking away from that conversation, knowing
Right.
that their dad did it the right way. Not that I'm perfect, but he did it the right way, and he treated people with the utmost respect.
Right.
That's kind of
good.
what motivates me.
That's good. That's good. So so how do you set goals now? Do you take time in the morning? Does I know you have them? You read them. You do different things of that nature. And do you set them in different areas of life? Like we talk about faith, family, fitness, finance, friends.
Right.
Or like 5 F's to think about. You talked about referrals, having friends outside of it, or you talk about networking is what you said, and
Right.
having friends outside of the sport. So how do you maintain harmony or balance in your goal setting in such a competitive and time demanding space?
I think you have to spend that quiet time. For me, I mean, it's my faith, so I have to spend that quiet time, with my Lord and Savior, and really ask Him for guidance. Because I can't do this on my own, right?
Right.
So I really have to try to ask Him for guidance, and and kind of really, I talk to pops. So that's what I call him. I talk to pops and kind of see, and hear his voice, and you have to really truly be able to block out all the noise to be able to really hear that voice. And then I kind of just go through there. So, every morning, people that follow me on social media, I post my devotions.
I see that. Yeah.
I do that personally. Like, people
Okay.
be like, do you post? I'm like, yeah, nobody. I don't have no PR team that posts stuff for me. I do it. So if it's wrong, it's me that did it wrong. So
Right.
I post that every morning, and then I have a daily devotion book that I read that has obviously the date. So each day I read that, and it has it asks you questions at the very end. Okay, are you doing this and this, or have you done this or that? And so I read that on a daily focus, and then I kind of just get my day started. And to get to your question, like from a spiritual standpoint, I just kind of see where I'm at spiritually, and I kind of know where I want to be at. And every day I try to, hopefully I can imitate the right perspective of the image of God each day that I'm on this earth. And so, I have an uncle that's in Atlanta. He's a pastor, and so we talk every morning. And it's not always about scripture; it's about daily, everyday stuff. And so that truly helps me to keep stuff in perspective. And then when it comes to my family, because I'm in a different stage. My daughter, she's getting ready to turn. She's finna be a senior in high school.
Right.
So our conversations are totally different now
Sure.
than they were when she was a 10-year-old.
Right.
So we having conversation now about college decisions.
Right.
Something that I didn't think about when she was 10-year-old.
Right.
And then boys and all that stuff. So our conversation, our relationships is very different. Compared to the new one, Kate, that's 1-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to tell him that, hey man, you need to lose some of this energy so you can go to sleep. So it kind of just varies. And then for me and my wife, I think the biggest thing when it comes to marriage to me is communication.
Right.
And you have to be open and honest with each other and kind of make sure that there's a balance between the two. It can't be a 60-40 type ordeal. Truly it has to be 50-50 because you're a team, and obviously the man is the head of the household, but you want to make sure that everybody's in a line with what's going on, and not don't want to run it like a dictatorship, I guess you would say.
Right.
So we kind of just have open conversations about where we at and where we want to be, from a marriage standpoint, because the only great marriage that I seen growing up was my grandparents. So I know what that looked like, and so I try to take what I learned watching them.
That's great.
To my marriage.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So our show, Studying Your Way to Success, is really indicates that there's no success without setback.
Right.
So have you had any setbacks you can share, or any way that you deal with setbacks?
Yeah, I think that's part of success is the setbacks and the failures, right? And I'd have had a bunch of them. I'd have had a bunch of setbacks, of not, attaining some of the goals that I set out to do, but that just adds fuel to the fire. Adversity, I think, really makes you who you are.
Right.
I can probably say in high school, because my grandmother was a custodian, and so when she passed, that was, to me, that was a setback because she got me started with football. And so, this was my 8th grade year. And so when that took place, I got really in a dark area, I guess, a dark spot in my life. Because I was looking forward to, going and being in high school with my grandmother, right? I had to, she the one that's why I'm a morning person, because she was a custodian, so we had to go clean the schools. So I was looking forward to those days. So when that happened, I really lost a lot of my passion and drive for the game of football. And it wasn't until I had that conversation with my granddaddy, and he kind of just reinstilled that passion that I had lost for the game, and then you get to to college, everybody wants to, and I don't talk about this very often, but everybody wants to win the Heisman Trophy. That's like the pinnacle of college football.
Right.
And when that didn't take place in 2009, a lot of people ask me, was I hurt? Yeah, of course, I'm human.
Yeah.
But I was more hurt for my teammates because I seen the dedication and the sacrifice that they displayed throughout that season to try to put me in that position. And that's very rare in college football for your teammates to do that. And so I was more hurt from that standpoint. And again, my uncle, and it was in New York. And so I was devastated. I was like, man, this is just wrong. I think they just did my teammates wrong. And I just remember as I was getting ready for the NFL draft, I remember my uncle said, remember when you didn't go to the Heisman? Look, now God's getting ready to send you up there for the NFL draft.
Yeah.
The biggest stage there is in the world.
That's right.
And so it's kind of like a twofold, coming full circle. Yeah, I didn't go that first time in December, but April I was there.
Right.
And to me, that was kind of like that full circle. And then, my senior year, a lot of people don't know. I played with turf toe. To me, that was a setback. That was a setback. That's people don't.
That's painful.
That's very painful. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Whoa.
Yes, that's very painful. It was a tough season to navigate through, and it happened the first game of the year. The first game, that play will never get out of my head. I still remember I returned the punt on our sideline, and I went to make the punter miss, and as I made him miss, the defender jumped on my back, and as people that's very familiar with turf toe, it extended my big toe as I was planting. It extended farther than what it should. And I knew right away something was wrong when I got up.
Right.
Because I got up and I couldn't. And I tried to push off, and I'm like, whoa, that didn't feel normal. And so I go to our trainer at the time, Danny Poole, and I'm like, something don't feel right about my foot. Like I can't push off. He's like, what you mean you can't push? I'm like, I literally cannot push off with my foot. And so we doing all the exercise and exams and stuff back on behind the bench, and now everybody see I'm limping. I'm like, man, it's something I can't push off. I can't run. And so we go back into the locker room, we examine it, like you're probably going to have turf toe. I'm like, what is that? It's like, well, your toe get extended farther than what it should be. I'm like, well, can I play? It's like, you can play, but it's gonna be painful. We're gonna have to do some stuff before the game.
Wow.
So that's to me, but it gave me another perspective of my teammates.
Was that 2009 season?
2009 season.
So that was the season for the Heisman.
Yeah, that was the season for the Heisman with the turf toe. And people
man.
that's very familiar, had to do what I had to do before games. But if you go back and look at that season, about the first 6 games of that year, we had rain delays. And so, as you know, medicine wears off. It's not going to stay forever. So half the season, I didn't even finish half the games because I couldn't, because my foot would swell up, after the games. It would swell up during the games, so I couldn't finish. And so that was very frustrating. But, I think with my faith, it got me through it all. Honestly. And I keep going back to that, but because it's really big in my life, I think with my faith, it got me through it all. Because I think the normal person would have just gave up and said, you know what, I'm not playing. But I had set out and I had made a vow to my teammates I was coming back to try to help them win an ACC championship.
Right.
and I wanted to make sure that I lived up to it. So I was going to do whatever they had to do to make sure that I was on that field. And then I came back my last year to graduate. You know, like we talked about earlier, you know, I'm the first one in my family to graduate.
That's huge, yeah.
You know, so that was huge for me. So it was, so I'd have had, you know, setbacks, and then you get to my professional career, you know, you just top pick. Everybody think you're gonna just walk in and boom, boolah, and have this instant success. You know, I don't start my first 2 years, so now I'm frustrated, you know, because I'm not starting my first 2 years. But it was a process that I had to go through, and I had great teammates with Fred Jackson, and I played with the great Marshawn Lynch, who was probably one of my greatest teammates. And those guys was able to mentor me. And then when my time came, 2012, here I am, my Pro Bowl season.
Wow.
So it just takes time. You can't rush the process. You obviously, yeah, there's frustration that comes along the way. But you just have to keep pushing through and keep trusting and never doubt yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing I see with a lot of guys is that they doubt themselves, or it's their circle that put doubts in their mind. So you have to be very careful of your circle, who you associate yourself with, because that stuff can really creep into your mind. And now you're sitting at home, like wondering, questioning yourself, something that you've done your whole life. Now you question yourself, can you do it? You know, so I had a great team around me that kept me very positive. You know, always my mom, them, my brother, my sister, and then my daughter. Every time, you know, even when I wasn't playing, every time after the game, she didn't know because she was young at the time when I was drafted. She always put a smile on my face, you know, and so to me that just meant the world. You know, I didn't care if I didn't touch the ball at all, but every time I seen her after the game, she was smiling. Like I had to touch it 20 times.
Right.
So, wow. I mean, you just have to just keep pushing, and then eventually your time will come.
Wow. So looking back on your college career and your pro career in football, is there a play from college and a play from the pro? You're like, man, this is it. This is a big one.
I mean, everybody always think when it comes to college that I instantly go to the Georgia Tech move. But to me, it was really the Boston College, my first game, with my first touchdown as a collegiate. As a collegiate player. And then, you know, so it was literally the exact same. It's ironic because it was literally the exact same play that I did against Georgia Tech. Where
they weren't watching the reels.
Yeah, they weren't watching the reel. I guess they didn't go back and study the tape. But I would say that. And then to come full circle, my first NFL touchdown, guess what took place? Up in Massachusetts against New England Patriots.
Wow.
So my first college touchdown took place against Boston College.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then my first NFL touchdown took place against the New England Patriots. I'm
fantastic.
Like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
That's great.
That's great. So I don't know if I got any stock up there. I don't think the people up there are too happy with me. But I love playing in their stadiums.
No Boston chowder up there, huh?
Yeah, I don't think I'm being invited to the clam chowder dinner. But I would say that play in particular in college, and then those two plays in the NFL.
Is there a coach that shaped you the most, do you think?
Oh, that's a tough one right there now, Eric. I would probably say my late high school coach, Buddy Nobles, probably shaped me the most. Because he really taught me what it meant to be to be an unselfish player, and to not worry about the stats and all the stuff that comes with it, and to always believe in myself. And I say that because I remember we played a playoff game. It was the semifinal game, a team we literally should have destroyed. And we ran a screen at the end of the game to try to win the game. And obviously, I was involved in the play. And I remember there was a lot of headlines and a lot of chatter in our town about why did he give the ball to me. And I remember he called me to the office, and he said, and he always called me C. He never called me CJ. He always just say C. He said, C. He said, obviously I know you hear all the chatter and all the headlines and all that stuff, but he said, if I had to do it again, I'm going to get the ball to my best player every time.
Oh, man.
And from that point, I told him, Coach, I appreciate you. And, you know, and he was like a father figure to me.
Wow.
You know, him and his family, his wife, Miss Tammy, and then his two sons. Well, he got 3 kids. His 2 sons, I grew up one of them, Casey, and then Caleb. And then his daughter, Kinley. So they're like my brothers, and she's like my second mom. So, but when he told me that, it just put a different perspective between a player and coach relationship.
Oh, sure.
Like, man, he has all the trust. No
Had
matter
faith
what
in you.
nobody, no matter what nobody says, no matter how people question him, he's always going to try to put the ball into his best player's hand, and then it's just up to that player to try to go out there and make the play. And I mean, we was close to making it, and that night we just fell short. And from that point forward, we had a great relationship.
When you're coaching running backs now, I mean, is there a go-to like these are the three things to think about, or?
Yeah, when I coach them now, honestly, I try to coach my guys the way that I was coached. So like when people come to a practice, like they're not gonna see a big yeller from Coach Spiller because none of my running back coach was yellers. Like they didn't yell at you. And so to me, I always said if I was to ever get in this profession, like I'm not going to yell at, to me, I'm not going to yell at my guys. I'm not going to try to belittle those guys, because I know the enormous pressure that comes with playing the position or just playing the game itself.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I give them make sure that they have the most confidence in the world. Even if I know in the back of my head that, man, this guy just ain't probably got it.
Right.
I'm gonna still make sure that this guy feel confident that he can go out there and get the job done.
Right.
Like that's my job is to give them that confidence. And so that's really how I try to, coach my guys. I mean, obviously you got to be tough. You want to be smart. But the biggest thing that we always talk about is have fun. It's a kid's game. And to me on Saturdays, that was time to have fun. During the week is when you put in all the work. Saturday is when it's time to have fun.
A good time, yeah.
It's the good time, And so that's kind of how I try to go about it in our room. Obviously, we get our job done, but we're going to have a good time. And then, I have a different approach than probably a lot of people. So like on Tuesdays, we call it Academic Tuesday. And so every guy that's in my room, I have an orange seat. I put it in the front, and we go through the academics. And so if I'm going to preach about how important academics is to me, and I know that's the number one thing in our program, well, we got to take some time out throughout the week to make sure that we're covering this stuff as a group. And I don't do that to try to embarrass no guy in my room. I do that so every guy in our room knows who's pulling their weight and who's not.
Okay.
And everybody know what the standard is. And so to me, I don't really have to say much because I have, two older guys with Will Shipley and Phil Marfa that can really say what I need, what needs to be said without me having to say it. So we go through that on Tuesdays. And I think it kind of just keep those guys in line because I think anytime you're in this profession and it's all about X's and O's, you're not going to have a relationship. And to me, I'm a huge relationship type person.
Right.
And I want my relationship to be more than just 3 or 4 years while you're at college.
Right.
I want my relationship to be a lifetime.
Right.
I always give the example of Darren Rencher. I coached Darren for 1 year, but it says a lot about our relationship because he invited me and my wife to his wedding. Here, God didn't recruit him, only had spent, a year or two around him. And, I guess through our interaction, the way I treated him, he felt like it was important for me and my wife to be at his wedding. And we was. And I always tell my guys that, hey, I'm going to be there. Coach going to be there. If you invite me to the wedding, I'm coming. If you don't, hey, I'll send you a gift. I'm going to be there. If you get ready to have that first child, I'm coming. I'm going to be there. So that's the relationship that I have because that's what I had with my coaches. To this day, I can call any of my running back coaches, and they're going to pick up the phone. And so that's what I wanted as a coach when I got into this profession.
That's good. 2 more questions, maybe 2.
No,
Good.
No, this is awesome.
So what's next for you as you move ahead in football and life? What would be one?
To me everybody dreams about, trying to become a head coach, right? But to me, it takes steps and it's a process. So, I never try to look too far down the road. I always want to stay in that moment so I can enjoy that moment. So the next step for me is really how can I make sure that my guys are prepared the best way possible to their best ability come Saturdays, and how are my guys prepared for life? That's my next step because I don't want to look back and when a guy's going and be like, man, I wish I would have just gave him that little nugget. I want to take advantage of that opportunity now while I have those guys in my room. So I would say when it comes from coaching, I would say I want to stay present in this moment and kind of just see where this path leads, and obviously up under some great guidance with starting with Coach Sweeney and now with our new offense coordinator, with Coach Riley, really just soaking it up and just seeing how these guys, what make them special. I think it'd be naive for me not to sit back and watch. Obviously I've known Coach for a long time now, but I'm still always intrigued by the decision making that he makes and how he interact with people. To me that's very intriguing to me. Because it takes a special person to do what he does.
Sure.
And then with Coach Riley, getting a chance to know him and just seeing how humble he is and how open he is, that's intriguing. Because if you want to one day be in those positions, you got to be able to take stuff from different people. But to me, my focus right now really is just how can I make sure that my guys are very prepared come Saturdays, and then also prepared for life. Because we talk about different topics in our room outside of football.
That's fantastic. All right, so what do you want to be remembered as long term?
Long term, that's a good one. I never really thought about that one. When it's all said and done, when people say, what do I want to be remembered as, I would probably say a guy that was humble, that done it the right way, had a lot of respect for everybody's job, no matter what the title was, and then really just enjoy it, and enjoy life. I think that would be some of the top things that comes to mind when I say want people to remember is that, a guy that loved his family, and then obviously, like I say, that enjoyed life.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So you give back on the field. I spend time with people. You said that you chose a number after somebody who gave back and helped single moms,
right,
buying houses. How do you give back in other ways? One of the things I've noticed is that the Clemson football team, they'll build a house.
Right.
And I may have seen your picture over there.
Yeah.
But how do you give back outside the field, and how do you recommend other people, see how they can? They may have a different gift or a different network than you, but how what do you think about giving back?
I think to me it starts in a person's heart. So for me, and this, I don't even know if it's been publicly announced yet, but so I wanted to do an endowment for Clemson, because I'm always going to have some type of affiliation with that university. So this year, this goes back to that having communication with, in the marriage. So I talked to my wife, and I like, hey, because I grew up in a single parent home, and I wanted to be able to, our endowment to be able to focus towards kids that grew up in that environment, but also kids that's right there at the edge of graduating, but does not have the financial means to finish. And I want to give them the opportunity to finish so that they can be a difference maker in their family, in their community. So that's what the Spiller Family Endowment is about. And we just started that this spring.
Man, that's fantastic.
And it's awesome. And everything I don't do it for clicks or likes. That's why I say I'm very reserved, because I want my stuff to come from my heart. Anytime I get involved with anything, if it's business deal and doing something like this, I'm always make sure it comes from the heart. And I'm always gonna go to prayer. And I think this was the right time. Because I always thought about it, but it just to me the timing and the feel just wasn't right. But this year really, having a deep dive into it, I felt like this was the time to really do it. So we're excited about it, and we may meet these kids, we may not. I may never meet these kids, but I at least want them to have the opportunity to, if they're at the finish line and don't have the financial means to be able to finish, that they can go to that and be like, okay, I'm going to be able to finish to change their family dynamics.
Interesting. What's so interesting, I work with some people that have a foundation as well. Another former football player from hails from Florida.
Yeah.
But there's so many people who want to help but don't know how to help, right? and if there's a foundation that you would run or have your hand on, I mean, that would open the doors for a lot of people that have had a similar experience. I really want to give back, but I don't really have the network or things to do that. So I commend you for doing that. That's fantastic. And if somebody wants to learn more about that, well, once you have it set up, let me know. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, because we're in the process of doing all that. Where a lady that's helping me, she getting like the QR code so anytime I do like a speaking engagement or somebody that say, hey, I want to donate, I'm gonna just send them to the endowment,
Sure.
so that they can be part of something that's gonna be special, that's gonna change a young man, a young woman's life.
No
And
doubt.
to me, that's what it's about, because honestly, without getting a scholarship to play football, I don't know if I go to college, just because from a financial standpoint from my mom. I
Right.
didn't grow up in the richest area.
Right.
My
Right.
mom didn't have those type of means. I mean, it would have been a lot of student loans, I can tell you that. I would have went to college, but it would have been some student loans.
Right. Right.
So I just always felt in my heart, man, just to be able to give back to students so that they can go off and change the dynamics of their family, because I seen what it done to my family. And I want those kids to be able to experience the same thing. So
That's fantastic.
That was a lot of thought into that.
Man, powerful. Thank you. Okay, last one.
yeah.
Closing question. I think I close the question. So if you were to say these are three things to think about that I would recommend, I being you, I'd recommend that you think about these three things in life. What are those three things?
3 things in life to think about. Obviously, you always have to think about your family. You always have to think about your family. Then, or if you want to switch it, you can start with faith. But to me, faith is like a given answer.
Right.
So family is that's one thing you always have to think about. And then another thing, you have to think about yourself. You know what I mean? Because you can't help others if you're not helping yourself. So you always have to think about yourself. And then I would put in there, think about, how do you want to enjoy life? Or the question that you just asked me, how do you want your name or whatever to be remembered?
Right.
How do you want people to remember you?
Right.
To me, those are 3 legitimate things to think about. A lot of people don't think about that, and a lot of people get, turned off when they go to thinking about, how do you want to be remembered? Because now they're thinking about, death. Like, you know what I mean? So people don't want to take that.
Yeah.
I mean, we living in an age where you just never know. So you just always, I'm not sitting here saying that you sit here and ponder on it, for 24 hours.
Right.
But it's nothing wrong with thinking about, how do you want to be remembered? Thinking about your family, then also yourself.
Right. Right.
So I think those are 3 legitimate things
That's strong.
that goes about it.
Good deal. Well, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Thank you for joining another episode of Stuttering Your Way to Success with my friend, C.J. Spiller.